If you're in the process of ending an abusive relationship or recovering from an abusive relationship with a narcissist, I'm sure you've heard time and time again that you should never give the narcissist another chance. But I know it doesn't seem so simple when it's you and it's someone you know and it's someone you have history with and maybe someone you still have really strong feelings for, and maybe you still feel very disappointed and heartbroken. And it's not always so easy to let go of those last tiny shreds of hope that maybe this person is capable of change. Maybe it's not completely impossible. Maybe you don't have to face all of these incredibly difficult challenges and this devastating loss. Which is why in today's video, if this is something that you're struggling with, I'm going to really break down and explain why giving a narcissist another chance is just never going to work out for you. And I hope by doing this, I can help clarify your position to you if this is something you're struggling with and help you see more clearly what it is you're dealing with. Welcome to Looking Behind the Mirror, where we explore narcissism and take our lives back as we make sense out of nonsense. As a quick disclaimer, everything I say is based on my opinions and my personal experiences. I'm not a professional, and if you're really struggling, I encourage you to seek professional help. I am providing links below for you. You may have noticed Marshall in the background there. Looks like he's not into this today. I might need to let him out. Marshall, hey. Okay, I'm going to just bring him up to say hello, and then I'm going to let him go. Look, buddy, everybody misses you. They want to see you. Aw. Aw, do you want to do this after all? Maybe we'll give him just one chance. Okay. If you are really agonizing over the decision over whether or not to give the abusive narcissist in your life another chance, I think the most important thing to understand is that the narcissist does not see the situation the same way you do. You are in different realities. From your perspective, you've been hurt, traumatized, the narcissist has abused you, probably done really horrible things to hurt you, betrayed you, all kinds of things, right? And from your perspective, it's obvious that the narcissist has done things to destroy the relationship and hurt you. And if they want another chance, they need to address those things. They need to make changes. They need to stop doing those things, and then maybe you can work things out. That's the obvious perspective and the view that you have living in reality. But the narcissist absolutely does not see the situation that way, not even close. From the narcissist's point of view, it's really important to understand that a pathological narcissist will always make excuses for themselves. And no matter what they have done, no matter what they have done to you, they will always believe that they had every right to do whatever it is they've done. And the reason that they believe that they had every right to do whatever it is they've done is because they did it. Because if they did something, that means that they had every right to do it. That is how they measure the morality of the things they do. That's how they make themselves exempt from the rules, and they make it impossible to even conceive of the idea that they could have done some terrible things that they shouldn't have done. So no matter what they have done to you, in their mind, there are excuses. There are exceptions to the rules. There are reasons that you made them do it. You left them no choice, or what were they supposed to do? And it doesn't matter what it is. So that's the first thing to really understand, is they do not view the things they've done to you as horrible, terrible, unjustifiable, unacceptable things that they must stop doing. And I know I'm going to get people saying that, no, narcissists know that they're doing wrong. They know that the things they're doing are wrong and that they're hurting you and like yada yada. Yeah, that is true, but you have to look at it from the narcissist's perspective. it's more accurate to say that a narcissist knows that what they are doing is considered wrong, that you would think it's wrong, that most people that, quote, don't understand their position would consider what they're doing wrong, that most people would not accept what they've done. Looks like I gotta let Marshall out, so hold on. I'm sorry, buddy. Okay, go ahead. I've made this analogy before, but I want to compare this to a little kid in school, a little 5-6-year-old in school who maybe put their books on the edge of the desk and then somebody walked by and knocked their books on the ground. And that kid is absolutely convinced that this other kid knocked their books on the ground on purpose, even though the books were hanging halfway off the desk, okay? And then maybe this happened 2 or 3 more times. And this little 5 or 6-year-old, let's say he's had enough and he's not gonna take it anymore. And so he decides to kick this kid in the shins for knocking his books on the ground. As a little kid in school, you know that you're not supposed to kick someone in the shins. But in this position, this little kid has convinced himself, well, this is different because this kid is provoking me and knocking my books on the ground. He deserves to get kicked in the shins. So the rules don't apply to me, although I understand that if I get caught, I will get in trouble. I understand that I'm not supposed to kick this kid in the shins and that other people are not going to think it's okay. But I know it's okay because I know that this kid deserves it and is asking for it. And I have every right to defend myself and kick this kid in the shins. And so this little kid, next time his books get knocked on the ground, just gets up and kicks this other kid in the shins, even if the books getting knocked on the ground is an accident. And then, the kid gets in trouble. Maybe he even profusely apologizes and cries and everything to try to avoid consequences, to avoid getting in trouble. But all the while understanding that while what he did was wrong, also at the same time believing the rules don't apply to him and this other kid was asking for it. Narcissists live their entire lives feeling like everyone is knocking their books on the ground on purpose. 90%, and I'm just making that up, but 90% of all the bad things that they imagine are happening to them, they imagine are being done on purpose. And that you meant to do this and you meant to make them angry and you meant to disappoint them. And so of course you deserve to be yelled at and lied to and abused. And while they cheat on you or they steal things from you or they scream and yell and insult you, they know that those things are, quote, wrong and against the rules and unacceptable. Well, this is different. The rules don't apply to me. I have every right to defend myself against the terrible things you're doing by doing whatever I want. And so when you are an abuse victim and somebody has made a habit of abusing you, it's really important to understand that if this person is a narcissist, they really believe that they're the victim here, that they had no choice. And especially if you have cut things off, if you have left them or cut contact or somehow imposed serious consequences, now they're even more of a victim because you're punishing them for things that they had every right to do in their imagination. And now you are asking them to change. You're asking them to acknowledge that they were very much in the wrong and they should not have done any of those things to you and that they had no justification for the ways they've harmed you, which is of course reality, but they don't live in your reality. And so when you are a recovering abuse victim and you're trying to decide whether or not to give a narcissist another chance, you need to understand that they don't think that they've done anything wrong that they need to change. So what are you giving them another chance to do? They aren't going to acknowledge that there's anything they need to change. Now, I'm sure a lot of you might be wondering, well, what about when a narcissist is apologizing and maybe they're even crying and groveling and getting down on their knees and promising to change and saying all the things you've been waiting to hear and they seem so sorry and they seem so distraught? Well, what about that? If they're doing that, surely they must understand that they did something wrong. Surely they must understand why it is that I want to end the relationship. So I have a few things to say about that. First of all, if you are trying to break things off with an abusive narcissist and they are doing this to you, they're groveling, they're apologizing, they're promising to change, they're crying, or they're whatever, they're acting like they're heartbroken, what are they actually saying? Because when you're in this situation, this is a very emotionally charged situation, and it's very difficult. I know firsthand, it's very difficult to think clearly when someone's doing this to you, someone who has abused you, someone who's broken your heart, someone who you still have feelings for maybe, and someone that's just deeply, deeply hurt you is now groveling and apologizing and crying and saying all the things you've wanted to hear. How are you supposed to see this clearly for what it is? It's very, very difficult. But I would ask you to stop and ask yourself, what is this person actually saying? Because in your emotional fog, it's very easy to project what you expect to hear or what you hope to hear, which is, you know, I'm so sorry that I lied to you, and I shouldn't have treated you that way, and I've done wrong to you. I recognize how much I have hurt you. I recognize what I've done to destroy this relationship, and I regret it so much. I would do anything to be able to repair the damage I've caused in order to be with you again and move forward in a better relationship and fix everything. That's what you're hoping to hear. And that is what you're projecting, maybe. I'm speaking for you now. But that's perhaps what you're projecting onto the apologies that you're hearing from the narcissist, when in reality, that's not what they're saying. If you really back up and look at what they're actually saying to you, it's usually very shallow, very meaningless, very vague, very much beating around the bush, really no acknowledging of anything specific. I know for me, one thing that really stands out in my memory is in an email, seeing a certain someone write, I don't know if this is the exact phrase, but it was something like, I'm sorry, I've told you I'm sorry. How many times do I have to say I'm sorry? And in reality, I mean, what is that saying? Is that really saying all the things I said a minute ago, all the things I wanted to hear? I could pretend that that's what he meant. I could pretend that, oh, he's sorry. He's so sorry. He's sorry, sorry, sorry. How many times can he say he's sorry? He must be really sorry, because that's what I really, really wanted to believe. But really what he's saying is, what's wrong with you? I'm entitled to your forgiveness. Why are you cutting me off like this? Why won't you talk to me? Who do you think you are? I said I'm sorry, and that should be enough. How dare you continue blocking me when I said I'm sorry? And just to say I'm sorry doesn't mean anything. It's really easy to say I'm sorry. And I didn't do this, but something that might have been useful, I mean, useful for my clarity, not for the relationship, would be to ask, what are you sorry for? And because if you do that with an abusive narcissist, you will soon see the apology fall apart. Because a narcissist is not going to acknowledge specifically what they've done, because they don't think they've done anything wrong or anything that they didn't have every right to do. So they're not going to apologize specifically for the horrible things that they've done to you, because they're not sorry. So no matter how sorry the narcissist acts, no matter how much they cry and beg and plead and grovel, what are they actually saying? Are they actually acknowledging what they've done? Are they actually proposing any concrete plans for how they're going to change and move forward? And are they actually acting on any of those things? Are they actually doing anything that shows you real concrete change that is happening? Probably not. And if you look at their words for what they actually are, they're probably very empty, very meaningless, and contain next to no accountability. Now, another reason that a narcissist might seem really sorry and distressed and cry and beg and plead is they are in distress. They are distraught. This is a very upsetting time for them when somebody that they have had control over, when they've had emotional control over you and have been able to manipulate you, and keep you wrapped around their little finger. When you suddenly wake up and start taking your life back and you cut those strings and you stop letting them control you, that's very, very disturbing and distressing to them. They have been using you as emotional validation to help regulate their emotions in a very unhealthy way. I don't know if you would really even call it emotional regulation, but it's their version of emotional regulation, using you as an emotional punching bag. And when you take that away, they are lost. If they don't have a backup plan or someone else to use for supply emotional validation, it's the end of the world for them until they find someone else. And so this distress you see is very real. They feel helpless. They feel lost. And they, on top of all this, they feel like they are entitled to you, that they own you. You don't have the right to break off this relationship unless it's their idea. That's also very distressing. It's as if someone has just taken away something that belonged to them, that was rightfully theirs. And so that's where a lot of this distress might also be coming from when it seems so genuine. It might really be genuine distress, but for all the wrong reasons, and not the reasons that you may be projecting onto the narcissist, the reasons that make sense to you. And of course, when a narcissist is acting so sorry, so distraught, so heartbroken, there is also the element of playing the victim. The narcissist believes that they are the victim in this scenario. So not only do they feel victimized, they need to validate this or prove to themselves and to everyone else, poor me, oh my gosh. After all I've done for you, you're just gonna leave me out in the cold and you're not gonna give me another chance, and I care about you so much and you're gonna do this to me. You know, they're demonstrating to themselves what a poor victim they are, and also doing the theatrics to show the rest of the world what a victim they are, how sad they are, and how unfair this all is to them. And it can be very effective. I'm sure a lot of you know, a lot of you have seen narcissists that have hurt you very deeply, abused you, and then turned around and put on this act of, poor me, I'm such a victim. And they are really trying to convince themselves of that every bit as much as they're trying to convince other people. And so it might seem really genuine. They might seem very distraught and heartbroken and down and sad and whatever. The most important thing to keep in mind is no matter how sorry they might seem, and no matter how distraught and distressed, none of it is about how much they've hurt you. It's all about them. It's all about how they've lost control. They've lost somebody that they were entitled to own and control, and they're now being punished for things that they had every right to do. All of it is about them. And underneath all of that is also a pathological shame that they're always trying to bury and run away from and justify their actions against. Because a part of them is aware that they've done terrible things, but is absolutely terrified, beyond description, terrified of facing the reality of what they've actually done, which is why you see all this craziness, all these excuses, all this nonsense to no end, justifying the horrible things they've done, playing the victim, and spinning everything around backwards. It is to run away from and bury this pathological shame, and that can cause part of the distress as well. And of course, after explaining all the reasons that a narcissist might seem very sorry and why none of it matters, I also just want to add that sometimes, even if this person was truly sorry for what they had done, sometimes there is a point, in my opinion, that it doesn't matter if this person's really sorry anymore. The things that a narcissist will do to you, in my opinion, you can't come back from some of these things. You can't rebuild a relationship with someone who has betrayed you so deeply and who's been so cruel about it, who has lied about you to people behind your back, tried to ruin your reputation, tried to get you fired, who's told lies about you to the person that they were cheating on you with. I mean, there are things that you just, in my opinion, you just can't repair. You know, you can't work that out in therapy when you've been betrayed so deeply. And I know that might not always seem so clear when emotionally you're still very heartbroken and trying to pull yourself back together. It might not be easy to see that even if the narcissist really was sorry, even if they were willing to change, it's not always easy to really envision what the reality of that would actually be like, and if it really is even something that you want to do in reality, what it would actually look like to try to put things back together with someone who has done the things they've done to you. So sometimes it doesn't matter if they're really sorry or not. Sometimes it's too late. Now, to get back to the subject of second chances and what it would mean to give an abusive narcissist a second chance. First of all, I want to point out that, again, you can tend to project what a second chance means to you onto the narcissist in several ways. One thing I think it's important to remember is that the narcissist will not appreciate a second chance. And I think from your perspective, you know, you have certain preconceptions and expectations, and you know that if you messed up and if you hurt your partner or whoever this is, you would like some grace. You would like a second chance. You would probably feel sorry, and you would want to have a chance to redeem yourself. And you would appreciate it if the person you hurt gave you another chance. And so it's easy to project that onto the narcissist and to think that the narcissist is also going to appreciate a second chance, but they're not, because like I've already said, they feel entitled to a second chance. They feel angry that you have even put them in this position. In their mind, you had no right to cut things off with them because they had every right to do all the things that they've done. So who do you think you are? And now you expect them to appreciate a second chance? No, you owe that to them. And so that's one thing to keep in mind. Another thing that we can tend to project with second chances is the feelings that we would have for this person. You know, feelings of trust, love, of wanting to repair the damage. The narcissist doesn't view it that way. The narcissist doesn't trust you. The narcissist doesn't love you in the way that you would hope they did. And after they have betrayed you and abused you, whatever love there might have been, whatever version of their love there might have been, is probably completely shattered, especially now that you've imposed consequences on them. There's no empathy here. So there's no motivation for them to change. So if you give them another chance, what you're really doing is encouraging them to continue doing whatever they were doing before. They see no reason to change their behavior. And this is really, I think, at least for me, this was really hard for me to really understand because it's so mind-blowing for a normal person. The question that you could imagine them asking is, why should I change? Why should I stop lying to you, yelling at you, whatever it is they were doing? Why should I? Why should I? And to a normal person, the answers are all obvious, right? Because you're damaging the relationship. You're hurting me. You're sabotaging yourself by hurting people for no reason. You're causing unnecessary harm, right? But the narcissist doesn't look at it that way. Those reasons don't hold any water. When the narcissist harms you and hurts you and betrays you and lies to you and yells at you, they are serving their own needs in some way. They are doing things that make them feel good or that are getting them something they want. And why should I change? There's no empathy. They don't care about the damage they've caused. They care about the things they've gained. And if you take them back and give them another chance, all they've learned is, oh, okay, I can do all these things I want to do. I can get my needs met. I can yell and scream at this person, and so I feel better about myself. I can cheat on them so I get what I want. And they're going to take me back. Cool. And there's no part of them that stops and thinks, well, wait a minute, this person obviously cares about me and I'm really hurting them with this behavior. Maybe I shouldn't be so terrible to this person that obviously is willing to give me another chance. No part of them whatsoever is thinking that. It's all about them and what they can get for themselves and what they can do to make themselves feel better. That's all they care about. So when you give them another chance, they literally have no reason to change whatsoever. Because even if worst case scenario, if they keep doing whatever it was they were doing and you finally have had enough and you cut them off forever, well, okay, now they got to go find someone else. Changing for you is not worth giving up all the things that they get through the abusive behavior they exhibit. And also, they don't believe that you're going to cut them off forever. They really believe that they can talk themselves out of anything. And when you give them another chance, you just reaffirm that belief for them. That, oh, yep, see, I can do whatever I want and I'll eventually be able to talk my way out of it. There's no consequences. I had every right to do all that stuff anyway. Obviously, it wasn't that big of a deal or this person wouldn't have taken me back. So cool, I can keep doing whatever I want. And there's never really going to be any consequences. And that's what they're going to think. And also, of course, I have to mention that when you give them another chance, you're also giving them the opportunity to punish you for thinking that you could hold them accountable for the things that they had every right to do. And that is what they're going to do. So no matter how sorry they seemed, no matter how many promises they made, when you take them back and give them another chance, they're going to teach you a lesson for trying to hold them accountable, because who do you think you are? And that's why the abuse often gets much worse after you try to cut things off and then give them another chance, because now you've just made them mad and they haven't learned anything and they aren't even willing to acknowledge that they truly did anything wrong. Now, the bottom line with all this is if you've been dealing with an abusive narcissist, and you are in a position where you just cannot decide whether or not to give them another chance, there's this catch-22 where there is no way that you can give a narcissist another chance that does not encourage them to continue with whatever behavior led up to you breaking things off with them. If you take them back, you are saying to them, hey, all that stuff you did to hurt me, I mean, I didn't like it, but I'm not going to do anything about it. I'm always going to take you back, so you can just keep doing whatever it was you were doing. And I know, of course, that's not what you mean to say to them, but that's what they hear. And there's no way around that, because taking them back is telling them that there are no real consequences for what they've done. And so it's this real catch-22. When do you give a narcissist another chance? The minute you do, you're telling them, hey, just keep doing whatever you want. There's no way around that. The only way to really tell a narcissist that you will not accept the way they've treated you is to cut things off forever and never give them another chance. That's the only way to really communicate that. And I know this is really, really difficult to deal with sometimes. And I know it's really hard to know that there always is this tiny little sliver of a chance that a narcissist might change. But even in those incredibly rare circumstances, the narcissist cannot stop being a narcissist, for one thing. And for another, narcissists that do seek help and change will never do it because someone gave them an ultimatum. It's very much like an addict. They will only change for themselves when they decide for themselves that it's best for them, especially with a narcissist. A narcissist is only going to do things that serve them. And so they are only going to change if, by some miracle, they see that they are going to be better off if they take accountability and go to a therapist and start working on themselves. And that's why with narcissism, that is so incredibly rare, because think of how hard it is for just normal people to acknowledge the reality of the things they've done and the reality of their limitations and their imperfections. Think of how hard it is for normal people to be honest with themselves about themselves. And then you take a narcissist whose disorder is perfectly set up with the main focus of it is to avoid acknowledging the reality of who they are and what they do. That person is not going to change for you. And in the very, very rare circumstances that they do change, it will always be for their own reasons, for their own benefit. And so if you have left an abusive narcissist, there is no leverage there for you to convince them to change. Zero. For all the reasons I've just explained. The more you try to convince them to change, really the more justified they feel in the things that they've done and the more victimized they feel. This is not a situation that you can fix in this way. So I hope that this video has given you some clarity in this situation if this is something you're dealing with, because I know it's really hard to let go of those tiny shreds of hope, especially when this person is saying all the things you've wanted to hear, and especially when you're so hurt and so heartbroken. But I promise you, if you just hold on to the reality of what's actually happening and the reality of what this person has actually done to you, sometimes with a white knuckle grip, there's going to be a day where you will wake up and wonder why you ever considered giving this person another chance, when you realize how much better life is with people that don't put you in these kinds of positions, with people who just treat you with dignity and respect without these games and without this hoping and wondering and all the begging and pleading and the manipulation and the games. You don't need any of this. And none of this is ever going to be what you hoped it would be. You're going to find the things you need and the things that serve you after you've gotten past the nightmare of someone who feels like they have the right to use you and manipulate you in this way. I hope this helps. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and comment below any ideas you have for me for future videos. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you like this video and would like to see more like it in the future. Until next time, thanks. Bye.